Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called We Ate Them, written by writer Unblocked. I've been doing my job as best I could, and I was getting better. I'd begun to fit in. Time passed until I felt comfortable here, and those around seemed comfortable with me. Then there was a shift change. New crew members came aboard as part of some exchange program. The term, or at least the words it was explained in, were foreign to me. Something about sending some of our crew away to learn from another, while taking on some to teach our ways. I disagreed with it personally. I believe it better to have a small, insular group who know and can trust each other. I wasn't in a position to overturn the decision, however, and I did my best to carry on. Thankfully, none of the new crew would be working in close proximity to myself. More time passed, and I came to dislike some of the new crew. They were a race I'd heard of before, but never encountered. They were smaller than me, but carried themselves as though larger than their stature. They all looked similar, lacking significant organic markings. One had artificial alterations, however, pieces of metal spiked and studded into itself. Apparently names and titles were more important to them than visual individuality. Something else I failed to understand, and had no desire to. Nearly halfway through the exchange program, I came to understand that at least one of them has mutual feelings towards me. In the past, I'd managed to find comfort and practicality in a similar situation. A common ground, even one of distaste, can be an ideal place to build trust and working relationship. This thing, though, appears to glare at me with every spare moment we cross. Its eerily coloured eyes follow me with unnatural focus. I would align them to a predator hunting, but they keep their distance. The others like it, sometimes deter the gaze, and I wonder what it thinks it sees that they do not. I was right. It was stalking me, watching and waiting with patience, unlike any predator I've known. During the time when activity on ships is minimal, it attacked. Heavy blows from long appendages struck my core. Attacks seemingly meant not to wound, but simply cause pain and instill terror. They did. I fled as quickly as possible, and while it didn't give chase, it does follow. My credentials open many doors, or rather, they should. It seems it has help from beyond. Each time I utilize a unique permission, those codes are weighted. I made progress through several maintenance bays. Unused in deep space as we were, it tracked me using means I couldn't understand until I trapped myself in the medical cell. Plug it in. The sound it made was deep and resonated within my core. As I recovered from the sonic attack, I felt something clatter against one of my limbs. A translator, a basic one. But the intent was clear. It had done all this to communicate. I looked at the device, confused and afraid, then back up at the creature. It leveraged one of those appendages again, and something primal within me reached for the translator. Test. There we go. I felt it synchronize something between us, and suddenly the sounds it produced became thoughts I understood. You doing okay? It was questioning my condition, when it was solely responsible for my current state. No! My mind screamed, and it reacted quickly. I still knew little of their culture, but something about the upward curve of its features told me that it wasn't deterred. You attacked me! Yeah, I did. It lowered itself to just above the floor. Until now, they had always seemed so small by comparison, but looking up at them was truly imposing. I've got a bad habit of punching things like you. Is that what you call it? I did nothing to you, to any of you, to us, and to probably everyone in the ship. Yeah, I know. It seemed to follow my attempts to look for an escape, effortlessly blocking all routes with the width of their body allowed. What about them, though? It directed itself at me directly, as though challenging that I was accosting another self. What could you possibly back home? We have this thing called the uncanny valley. Call it an instinct. If we saw something that looked a little wrong, like 95% of what we were supposed to be, it scared us. This happened on a primal level. Hairs standing on end, hackles raised, the whole deal. The sonics coming out of it had softened, but they were still unpleasant as it explained, whatever this was. For a long time we wondered why we would have an instinct like that. We could see something broken and want to fix it, something weirdly shaped and we were down to collect it, something that looks like it's trying to look like something else, though. That spooks us. My body began to subtly shake. The implications took time to register through translation, but soon made sense. It made that expression again, that upward curve as it discerned my shift in mood. Eventually we figured there had to be something among our ancestors, a creature that hunted by hiding among them, a creature who could just about get away with looking like them. Now that is scary. See, most predators can blend in with their terrain, but one that can walk amongst its prey directly. How does prey stop that? As it continued, I honestly caught myself arriving at the same question. Somehow we did, though. And now, because we have that instinct, we're really good at spotting stuff that looks out of place. Of course, we need to be really familiar with the original. And unlucky for you, I've got a bunch of friends who look like the skin you're wearing. The shake stopped and a complete paralysis took over. My mind was screaming, but no muscles responded, not even my own. Yep, got him locked down, just trace me. No fucking idea where this jackass dragged me. I was caught. Even if I could get away from this one, it was clear more were on the way. Ones that likely had restraints and weapons. Sure enough, little more time passed, and that was exactly what came through the door. My own instincts failed me, and where I would have made an attempt to plead my own innocence, to accuse my attacker, there was only silence. I'd been bested before, but never so completely. I accepted the restraints, and the form slowly dropped from my true frame. They made various comments, but I heard little, as the one who hunted me never looked away. Want to know? Its allies turned to face it, expressing what must have been a confusion that matched my own. I told him a little story before you guys got here. I didn't quite get to finish it. It moved towards me a bit. I responded as apprehensively as I could. It raised its appendage like before, but this time they seemed to communicate peace or even surrender. So do you want to know how the prey we beat that predator that could blend in with us? It moved in a way that encompassed the others who'd come aboard with it. I suppose there was barely a moment before I was sent the translated words. A terrifying upward curve appeared, even wider than before, and its eyes went wild while lunging towards me. We ate our native mimics. End of story. Story number 2. Elementary, written by Shogun CDN. Captain Lee looked over the readout. 875 souls. The generation ship Horizon had started 120 years ago, with a complement of 300 men and women, and had grown to the 875 that currently breathed the recycled air. His own grandfather was one of the original engineers, and now he captained the ship that left Earth 80 years before he was even born. Each year, more and more systems required repairs, and the ship was being held together with tape and hope. He looked at the blue glow of the planet Varus below him. The ship had not detected any signals from the planet, so it came as a surprise to everyone when orbital scans detected a civilization. They had not yet invented radio signals, so the planet was dark as the ship as they accelerated towards it. Lee felt almost overwhelmed by the prospect. They thought they were on a mission to discover a new planet. No one expected to make first contact. The odds were astronomical, and yet the scans confirmed it. The Verusians seemed like they had just recently discovered electricity. Their overall level of technology seemed equivalent to the late 1800s on Earth. They'd made contact 2 months ago, and ships had been going back and forth to the surface. Luckily, the Verusians were friendly and appeared willing to invite the humans to the planet, but it was extremely slow going. The Verusian language was unlike anything on Earth. The residing linguists were unable to make much headway despite spending hours with the Verusians every day. They talked about the alien phonology and pragmatics until Lee's brain hurt from just trying to make sense of it all. Lee knew that one instance of miscommunication could derail any progress they had made. At this rate, it would be years, if ever, before they could establish a real relationship to allow them to safely establish themselves on the planet. While the Verusians were friendly, the advanced technology of the humans could easily be seen as a threat. He needed to get his people off the ship and let them breathe fresh air and taste real water. He thought of the elderly on the ship who had spent their entire lives in a metal can. He thought of his wife. He thought of his 7-year-old son, Adrian. 3 months later, he was sitting across from a Verusian delegation. They were bipedal, but lacked the mass of humans. They were rail-thin with angular features and walked with a stilted gait. Their grey features and large eyes always made them look like they were in awe of everything. The meeting had been going on for well over an hour. The head of the Verusian delegation spoke, the voice coming out of a series of chirps and otherwise incomprehensible sounds. Captain Lee and the entire Earth delegation looked at Lee's son, Adrian. The boy looked at from his data pad. He says we can stay, but wants us to stay in the camp for now, Adrian said absently. Captain Lee looked at his son, who had turned back to his datapad. Are you sure? Adrian looked at his father. Are you sure? Can I go play now? My friends from school are going to the beach. Lee rubbed his head. The decision to send children from the ship to Verusian schools had worked out even better than he'd hoped. The elastic brains of children had managed what computers and linguists were unable to do. The children had become proficient in the basics of the Verusian language, and their skills were growing every day. Lee had watched as the children from both species easily learned how to communicate. There were now children on both sides who were able to bridge the gap. Lee looked at Adrian's. Please tell them that we will respect their boundaries, and will only build inside the camps for now. What boundaries? Adrian asked. Their rules, Lee replied. Adrian turned to the Verusians and chirped out some halting words. The language was still difficult for human mouths to produce, but the Verusians seemed to understand and stood and gestured with their hands on their chests. The head of the delegation chirped some more words. Adrian, Lee prodded his son. He says they will bring, I don't know what the word is, but they will bring some over tomorrow to show you around. Can I go? Adrian replied. Lee looked over the corner of the room. A small Verusian child was near the door, hopping anxiously from foot to foot, waiting for Adrian to finish. Lee still really couldn't tell them apart, but it appeared to be Adrian's new friend, Clip-Ticket. Lee motioned to one of his staff. Edward is going to go and watch you. Be good. Adrian leapt from his chair and ran to his waiting friend. Edward scrambled to keep up with them. Lee looked around the room. He'd never expected the highest-ranking people from two species would be meeting here. The humans packed their things and gestured politely to the Verusians. Lee stepped out of the elementary school into the warm air, hopeful for the future. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholt, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.